My name is Gregory Payne, and I'm the professor and chairperson of Communication Studies at Emerson College, the first communication program in the United States. Welcome, everyone, to the Southwick 2022 Recital. The Southwick at Emerson is an Emerson tradition that was first presented in 1900 and now is in its 123rd season. Emerson's Communication Studies program produces and presents the recital, which focuses on oral communication of literature, prose, poetry, drama, and the personal narrative. This semester's Southwick is different in a couple of important ways. We're calling it Life Out Loud, and it focuses on humorous pieces and the various shadings, some sweet, some dark, some painful, some funny, that humor can provide. And furthermore, we're proud to be presenting it in collaboration with Emerson's Center for Comedic Arts. And I want to introduce a dear friend of mine, Marty Cook, the founding director of the center. Marty, it's a thrill and pleasure to be once again working with you and the center.
Well, thank you, Greg. It is a pleasure to be working with you, especially since our friendship goes back so many years. I feel like it's as old as Southwick itself. So the Center for Comedic Arts resides at both Emerson's Boston and Los Angeles campuses, and it operates in partnership with the BFA in Comedic Arts, which is the first such degree of its kind in the nation. The center really focuses on the role and relevance that comedy plays in society. We do this through research, academic study, experiential learning, professional development, and scholarships. We just are here to nurture the next generation of comedy makers and scholars.
Well, you do an amazing job, Marty, and Emerson is enriched by everything that you and the center do. That's one reason why we're very excited about tonight.
Well, thank you, Greg. We take comedy seriously at Emerson, and it is a real treat for us to be involved in the presentation of this semester's Southwick and this tradition.
We're very glad that you're here, Marty, so let's get on with the show. Let's turn it over to Professor Ken Grout of the Communication Studies Department, who's now live in Emerson's Simmel Theater. He's ready to lead us through an evening of Life Out Loud. Ken?
I know I love you back. In an appropriate way. So, welcome to the Spring 2022 Southwick Recital here at Emerson College. So happy to have you here. So happy to have you here. And there's how many? Give us some applause for people in the theater because it's amazing. It's really amazing to be back, live and. So that's terrific. However, what you guys hear, we are live in the Simmel Theater in the Tufte building in Boylston Place in Emerson's Boston campus. What you guys need to understand is that we are also being joined by friends and family and folks from here and around the world over Zoom. So I thought, let's bring the audience together, shall we? So come on, people in the theater, on the count of three, let's let the Zoomers know that we're here. So 1, 2, 3, hi Zoom. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Hi Zoom. Yeah, it's great. It's great. All right, and Zoom. Okay, your turn. So on 3, if you would just say hi, Simmel Theater in the Tufte Building, Boylston Place, at Emerson Boston campus. 1, 2, 3. See, yeah. I don't know. I don't understand the internet. Anyway, I want to say some thank yous because there's been a lot of people who have worked really hard to put this evening together. And I'm not going to thank absolutely everybody, but I do want to give some shout outs. The folks in the Simmel Theater staff, the Simmel box office, and Emerson Productions, thank you so much. Couldn't do it without you. Thank you, Satch. Colin, thank you very much. Thank you, Shepard. But I especially want to thank Dr. Payne, Marty Cook, Jane Pierce-Selnier, Matt McMahon for helping the collaboration between Com Studies and the Center for Comedic Arts. But I really, more than anybody, want to thank the two people who, frankly, as stage managers, I'm standing here right now because they have kept me as sane as is possible given my fabric over the past weeks. So to Emily King and Zarina Levitsky, you may not know why, but give it up, please. Just been absolutely amazing. And lastly, I want to thank Dean Raoul Rice of the School of Communication. Dean Rice is going to be leaving Emerson before too many more days and weeks go by. And I just wanted to say to Dean Rice, you've always been a supporter of the Southwick, and I thank you for that. You've always been a supporter of me, and I thank you for that. So much appreciated, and Godspeed, and best wishes for you in the next chapter for you. So Raoul, Dean Rice, please. So thank you very much for that. Now,
Oh, hey. Hey. Hi.
Hi.
Hi. Do you mind?
Well, it seems it doesn't matter.
Yeah, well, kind of not.
Nejim Rahim, professor in marketing communications. And a guitar.
It's the Southwick Recital, it's the Southwick Recital, it's the Southwick Recital, which nobody can deny.
We have a jingle. That's really, Nejim, thank you. No one's ever given me a jingle. No, no one has. All right, so our first presentation tonight, you're going to hear some short stories, you're going to hear dramatic monologues, some poetry, but you're going to hear, both at the beginning of the show and the ending of the show, you're going to hear personal narratives. And personal narratives are a particularly challenging and fascinating form of literature, because they are when people choose to write their own stories and they choose to share them, and there's real power in that, and so much power. I'll give a quick note that this fall 2022 Southwick is going to be purely personal narratives. I will announce this again later. If you feel like that's something you'd like to do, send an email to southwick@emerson.edu. It's open to students, staff, faculty, and alums, so we're gonna make it happen. It's gonna be great. But first, let's get through tonight. So our first presenter is doing a personal narrative entitled, "We Will Make This." It is a piece about a friend, a bus, and possibilities. So we call her Sunny. She comes from Beijing, China. Her name is Zhansho Xia. So here with "We Will Make This," please welcome Sunny Jia. Sunny?
We will make this. That's what I said to her after I got trapped in the traffic jam and finally got to the bus station. Yeah, I said we. There should be a bus here, but where is it? I mean, I didn't know where the bus was, but I did know we missed it. Then again, we spent another $20 to buy a new bus ticket that from New York to Boston that departed from a different station. And again, we got into an Uber with our 2 massive suitcases which wanted to abandon. I checked the time on my phone again and again, though it wouldn't help. She sat beside me, and I heard her murmuring with complaint. You know the sounds she made. Do you know that feeling? That sometimes when both of you are in an urgent situation, there's a kind of default rule that if one of you becomes mad, the other has to be cool. That's what I feel at the time. But how could a person who knows me for 2 years not know that I will be just as impatient, nervous, and angry as she was? And the fact that she didn't made me even more impatient, nervous, and angry at her. I started to think I'd have been better off traveling alone. But still, I told her, don't worry. You know what? As a car stop, we just jump out and run, and it will be fine. We will make this. That's what I said to her when we pulled our suitcases out of the trunk, though there was only 1 minute for us to catch the bus. I comforted her, but also myself. Well, yeah, I said we. At that moment, I thought I was like James Bond. You know, the heavy suitcase was not heavy at all. And my goal had never been that clear. I must get onto that bus. Come on, I don't want to spend another $20 to buy a new bus ticket. And I knew if I tried my best, it was still possible to catch the bus. I did run, but my partner, she was not a special agent, and her suitcase got stuck on the curb. That was the moment she said what I hoped for, what I needed, and what I deserved. You go on ahead. I didn't look back, and I keep running. Normally, I'm polite. I will wait in the line, but this time was not a normal situation. So I skipped to the head of the line and asked for where I could get onto my bus. Luckily, the bus stop was easy to find. Just go downstairs and to the end of the hallway. I've got hope, but my partner has still not showed up. No time for me to hesitate. I ran downstairs and to the end of the hallway. Bus was still there. Well, I lied to the driver. My friend, she's in the bathroom. Could you please wait for a minute? He turned to me and said, "Get in or get out, lady." I felt my body was trembling, and my feet were stepping me onto the bus and walking me to the last line of seats. Then I sat down. The bus ran. None of the other passengers knew that there was supposed to be one more passenger who came with me. I knew, but right now on the seat beside me was my backpack. We will make this. That's what I said to her. Yeah, I said we. But right now, my Boston is ahead and our New York is behind. Thank you.
It's curious. You might have noticed in that last bit yourself or others around you laughing. It's a curious thing, laughter. If it has no specific meaning, no semantic content, the way words do. It comes in this wide variety of sounds and shapes. It's auditory and it's visual, and it's recognizable. I could drop you on planet Earth pretty much anywhere, and if people were laughing, you'd probably recognize that that's what they're doing. It's universal among humans. And we're not alone. Higher primates laugh. Chimpanzees, when they're in rough and tumble play, have opened their mouths and bare their teeth and have this reiterated panting sound. Laughter can feel great, releasing endorphins, lifting our mood. We might think of laughter as this automatic mood signal, this response triggered by something funny. It is that, but it's more than that, much more.
So, Dr. Philip Glenn, please give a hand for Phil. So, thank you for that. Phil is our laughter whiz, laugh whiz. Laugh whiz. Yeah? Nice. All right. So he's going to give us information about laughter as the evening progresses. We'll see Phil a couple more times. Good. So, next up is a short story by an American master. Depending on the version you read, it is either referred to as The Jumping Frog, the celebrated jumping frog, the notorious jumping frog, or the celebrated notorious jumping frog? I say, why go less when you can go more? So, here with an abridged version of the celebrated, notorious jumping frog of Calaveras County by American icon Mark Twain, here is Emerson Comedic Arts icon, Professor Matt McMahon. Matt?
There was a feller here once by the name of Jim Smiley. In the winter of '49, or maybe it was in the spring of '50. I don't recollect exactly. Somehow, though, what makes me think it was one or the other is because I remember the big flume wasn't finished when he first came to the camp. But anyway, he was the curiousest man about always betting on anything that turned up you ever see. If he could get anybody else to bet on the other side. And if he couldn't, he'd change sides. There couldn't be no solitary thing mentioned, but that feller'd offer to bet it and take any side you please. If there was a dog fight, he'd bet on it. If there was a cat fight, he'd bet on it. If there was a chicken fight, he'd bet on it. Why, if there was two birds sitting on a fence, he'd bet you which one would fly first. He catched a frog one day and took him home and said he calculated to educate him. And so he never done nothing for 3 months but sat in his backyard and learn that frog to jump. And you bet he did learn him too. He'd give him a little punch from behind, and the next minute you'd see that frog whirling in the air like a donut and come down flat-footed and all right like a cat. You never see a frog so modest and straightforward as he was, for all he was so gifted. And when it come to fair and square and jumping on a dead level, Daniel Webster was the name of the frog. Daniel Webster could get over more ground at one straddle than any animal of his breed you ever see. Well, Smiley kept the beast in this little lattice box, and he used to fetch him downtown sometimes and lay for a bet. One day, a feller, a stranger in the camp, he was come across him with his box, and he says, "What might it be that you've got in the box?" And Smiley says, sort of indifferent like, "It might be a parrot, or it might be a canary. Maybe, but it ain't. It's only just a frog." And the feller took it, and he looked at it careful, and he turned it around this way and that, and says, "Huh, so 'tis. Well, what's he good for?" "Well," Smiley says, easy and careless, "he's good enough for one thing. I should judge he could outjump any frog in Calaveras County." The feller took the box again and took another long, particular look and give it back to Smiley and says, very deliberate, "Well, I don't see no pants about that frog that's any better than any other frog." "Maybe you don't," Smiley says. "Maybe you understand frogs, and maybe you don't understand them. Maybe you've had experience, and maybe you ain't only amateur, as it were. Anyways, I've got my opinion, and I'll risk $40 that he can outjump any frog in Calaveras County." And the feller, he studied a minute, and then says, kinder sad like, "Well, I'm only a stranger here, and I ain't got no frog. But if I had a frog, I'd bet you And then Smiley says, that's all right. If you hold my box a minute, I'll go and get you a frog. And so the feller took the box and put up his $40 along with Smiley's and sat down to wait. So he sat there a good while, thinking to himself. And then he got the frog out and prized his mouth open and took a teaspoon and filled him full of quail shot. Filled him pretty much near up to his chin, and he set him on the floor. Smiley, he went to the swamp and slopped around in the mud for a long time. And finally, he catched a frog and fetched him in and give him to this feller and says, now, if you're ready, set him alongside of Daniel with his four paws just even with Daniel, and I'll give the word. Then he says, 1, 2, 3, 4, jump! And him and the feller touched up the frogs from behind, and the new frog hopped off. But Daniel give a heave. And he heisted up his shoulders, so like a Frenchman. But it wasn't no use. He couldn't budge. He was planted as solid as an anvil, and he couldn't no more stir than if he was anchored out. Smiley was a good deal surprised, and he was disgusted too. But he didn't have no idea what the matter was, of course. The feller took the money and started away, and when he was going out the door, he sort of jerked his thumb over his shoulders this way at Daniel and says, very deliberate, well, I don't see no pants about that frog that's any better than any other frog. Smiley, he stood scratching his head. And he catched Daniel by the nape of the neck and lifted him up. And he says, why, blame my cats if he don't weigh 5 pounds. And he turned him upside down, and the frog belched out a double handful of shot. And then he see how it was. And he was the maddest man. He set the frog down and took after that feller. But he never catched him. Thank you.
It's the Southwick Recital. Zoom's made us all homicidal. So the need for humor is vital, which you better not deny.
It's social. Laughter has no particular place in interaction. You are free to laugh anytime at any moment. Yet there are places where it shows up again and again, and there are places designed for it, like the punchlines of jokes. When we notice someone laugh, we search for the referent. We decide quickly whether we might or should laugh along. In her poem Solitude, Ella Wheeler Wilcox wrote, "Laugh and the world laughs with you, weep and you weep alone." But I don't know about the weeping part, but there's truth in her insight about laughter. Sometimes when we laugh, we invite others to join in, to laugh with us. And when we laugh together, we affiliate, we connect, we celebrate. And that's why there are laugh tracks, so that watching that sitcom alone at home, you get that sense that your enjoyment is somehow connected to the enjoyment of those fake or real people also laughing. Yet it's not always the case, laugh and the world laughs with you. There are these other laughs that do other jobs. They pepper our conversations. They are social, but they don't invite others to laugh along. They help manage delicate moments and problematic actions, complaining, bragging, apologizing, teasing. If you laugh while you're telling me about your troubles, you're signaling that you're okay, you're managing. If I laugh while you're telling me about your troubles, I'm not being your friend.
So for students here and fellow professors, everyone, it's always interesting when you get to know professors and you find out things about them that don't appear on the surface or that don't appear on their CVs or in their syllabi. I, for example, am allergic to tater tots, and that's a fact that's probably not known, but does it look like I'm allergic to tater tots? Okay. My point is that our next presenter is a marketing communications professor who is also a poet. She writes her own poetry, she publishes poetry, and she's going to deliver 2 original pieces for us tonight. So, here with the toy villain and the interpreter, please welcome Professor Brenna McCormick. Brenna?
I would like to dedicate these poems to my husband, Chris, and to our son, Avery, who's their inspiration behind them, and also to all parents out there. The toy villain. I hold a silent memorial for the Legos that fall into the trash bin from the reservoir of the vacuum. In my spare time, I box up the one-offs, the second-generation hand-me-downs, the discarded Disney souvenirs, delight in finding that last missing puzzle piece or the lost blue marble discovered under the baseboard heater. I am a master of three-point throws, balls, blocks, and well-loved stuffies tossed into baskets and bins, lids snapped on in satisfaction. If the lids are not missing, my husband and I have learned to not go without footwear. We battle the resistance, sing little jingles, pick up and put away when you're done or at the end of the day. There is defiance, denial, woe. When the last straw breaks, there are the words of my ancestors pouring from my mouth. Pick these up or I will give them away. Toy Story 3 plays in the background, mocking us all. I am suddenly the worst villain, not Cruella de Vil, not Maleficent or Oogie Boogie, but a crazed woman who has spent too many Sunday mornings looking at spaciously clean homes in magazines, forgetting they are a mirage. Brown eyes, a mirror of my own, burn back at me, glazed with unshed tears. A timeout is called, a truce. We sort together, agree to give some away. Weeks later at Goodwill, the angry man tells me that he throws toys in the dumpster. He is the new villain. Outraged and defeated, I drive home. The boxes go back in the basement. Soon they're rediscovered, occupying my son for hours, creating a multiverse where Agent J fights the Joker and Elmo and the man with the yellow hat look on. Castles are built, vehicles amassed, characters deployed. Soon they're strewn across the ocean of the carpet, the flotsam and jetsam of an endless battle. The interpreter. A storm of static in your hair. Birthdays solemnly counted by 3, now 4 fingers, standing tall. W's gradually become R's, and you tell me you really want it, Mama, or sometimes Mama Bear, or increasingly, Mom, 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 Mom. Triangles are still tritingles. Chipmunks are still cheepas, but hop-hops and wawas have long become bunnies and puppies. You now sit at the table, soliloquize the plot of Gabby's Dollhouse, Tumbleleaf, tell us of Curious George's exploits, burst forth with "That's so silly!" Cry when I, not you, peel the banana, flush the toilet, blow out the candle, fall off the couch after I told you to stop jumping. Hide your boo-boos from me so I won't be mad. You live by the code of naughty or nice. Refuse to listen. Take yourself into time out, slam the door. Say please, thank you, and yell poop, all in the same conversation. Chickens are the hilarious punchline of jokes without punchlines. You rub your eyes and say, you are not sleepy. Say you want to snuggle with Dad, with Mooney, with Lammy, and Baby Cat. Be tucked in, then kick off the blanket. You say, good night, Mom. Love you all time.
Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. Up above the world so high, like a diamond in the sky. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are.
تلألئي تلألئي نجمتي الصغيرة، كيف لي أتساءل عن حالك؟ فوق العالم عالية عالية كالألماس تلألئي نجمتي الصغيرة.
Brilha, brilha, estrelinha, quero ver você brilhar. Brilha, brilha lá no céu, num desenho de cordel. Brilha, brilha, estrelinha, quero ver você brilhar.
Skitter, skitter, kleine ster, wat is jy so hoog en ver? Aan die lugse verste rand, soos 'n helder diamant. Skitter, skitter, kleine ster, wat is jy so hoog en ver?
一闪一闪亮晶晶，满天都是小星星，挂在天上放光明，好像许多小眼睛。一闪一闪亮晶晶，满天都是小星星。Błyskaj, błyskaj gwiazdko ma. Błyskaj, błyskaj gwiazdko ma. Leć wysoko, jak na niebie, jak diamencik. Błyskaj, błyskaj gwiazdko ma, leć wysoko, leć wysoko.
Brilha, brilha,
Kleine ster, wat is jy so hoog en ver? Aan die lugte verste rand, soos 'n diamant. Skitter, skitter, estrelinha, quero ver você brilhar. Brilha, brilha, estrelinha.
It's still the Southwick Recital. The lobes of our brains aren't idle, neither occipital nor parietal.
Had we but whirled enough in time, this coyness, lady, were no crime. We would sit down and think which way to walk and pass our long love's day. Bow by the Indian gauges' side, shouldn't rubies find, I by the tide. Of umber would complain, I would love you 10 years before the flood. And you should, if you please, till the conversion of the Jews, my vegetable love should grow, vaster than empires and more slow, and 100 years should go to praise, thine eyes on thy forehead's gaze. 200 adore each breast, but 30,000 to the rest, an age at least to every part. And the last age should show your heart, for lady, you deserve this state. Nor would I love at any other rate, but at my back I always hear time's winged chariot hurrying near. And yonder all of us before lie, deserts of vast eternity. Thy beauty shall no more be found, nor in thy marble vault. My echoing song then worm shall try that long preserved virginity. And your quaint honor turn to dust, and to ashes all my lust. The grays a fine and private place, but none, I think, do there embrace. Now therefore, while the hewful hue sinks on thy skin like morning dew, and while thy willing soul transpires at every pore with instant fires, now let us sport us while we may, and now, like amorous birds of prey, rather at once our time devour, that languished in his low chapped power. Let us roll all of our strength and all, our sweetness up into one ball, and tear our pleasures with rough strife. Through the iron gates of life, thus though we cannot make our son stand still, yet we will make him run.
What's happened to you? What? Rocco? You're okay?
I'm graduating soon.
Could we please, let's see, hang on, I want to get the title right. To His Coy Mistress by Andrew Marvell was presented, please, by Samantha Parker. Would you? With some help from the soon-to-be graduated Rocco Polanco. All right. So our Laugh Whiz has one more offering for us. Dr. Glenn, would you please give it up for Phil? Thank you.
It's volatile. So it's true that laughter has no particular place in interaction. You are free to do it any time, at any moment. Yet there are consequences for laughing at the wrong moment. Have you ever gotten the giggles during a court hearing or a serious meeting or a funeral? There are misplaced laughs. And there are dangerous laughs. Philosopher Ronald de Sousa writes, "We think of laughter as an occasionally risky pleasure like sex, which is a good thing in itself, or at least when done in the right way and kept in its place." Have you ever wondered in some situation, are they laughing at me or with me? Laughing at is the laughter of teasing, of mocking, of ridicule. It can be cruel. It can be humiliating. Now, laughter can go along with what's happening, but laughter can also resist. Laughter can thumb its nose at authority, at power. Laughter can incite a rebellion. But whatever else it's up to, laughter introduces ambiguity, a degree of freedom between us and our actions, LOL. It can signal that we don't fully mean what we're saying, that we're not quite serious. But then that serious signal itself might not be serious. So when I said a minute ago that laughter is like sex, I was just kidding. When I said that just now about just kidding, I was just kidding. Or was I?
Thank you again, Phil. Much appreciated, our laugh whiz. So our final, am I right? Emily, am I right about that? Correct. Yeah? She's on both sides. Our final presentation this evening, as I told you at the beginning of our recital, that personal narrative is a piece that we work on and that I feel very strongly about. It's one thing to write your story. It's another thing to say your story, and it's another thing to say your story in public. It quite frankly takes craftsmanship, but it also takes bravery. And I think there's real strength in that. And that's why, again, the fall 2022 Southwick is going to be purely personal narratives. And if that strikes a chord with you, southwick@emerson.edu. Thank you for your consideration. Now, for our final presentation of this semester's recital, this is a personal narrative about adolescence, the internet, and California. Here, with a piece of his own creation entitled Home, please welcome Kellen Martinez.
Okay, so if you are a member of my family watching this on Zoom, sorry. All right. One simple Google search when I was 13 years old changed everything. I mean, obviously I already knew what porn was because I was 13, but a new discovery made me completely rethink the way I saw my quiet little town. Chatsworth, California, in the San Fernando Valley, is where I grew up. If you've never heard that name before, you might know it by one of its nicknames, Porn Valley, Silicone Valley, the San Fernando Valley. Basically, what I'm trying to say is the town where I learned to read, write, walk, talk, eat, sleep, and use the internet was, while I was growing up, the porn production capital of the world. Suddenly, things around town started making a lot more sense. Oh, so that's what those billboards are for. And that's why that dude was editing a porn compilation at Starbucks at 7 in the morning. Which means that's why the lady with the Bentley and the biggest boobs I've ever seen was shopping at our Target. Huh. It was right around this time, though, that I started realizing that I may not be all that into big boobs and Bentleys. I mean, Bentleys are pretty cool, and I'm kind of indebted to boobs, but once my neighbor showed me a YouTube skit where one of the people says, "Everyone watches gay porn once in a while," it was a slippery slope. You're telling me that I can look at gay porn but still be straight? It wasn't long before I started accidentally stumbling upon gay porn. But then I started feeling like maybe I wasn't straight. What could that be about? And then I realized that you don't accidentally stumble upon gay porn every day for 2 solid months. Either way, it was a problem that I really wanted to solve, so I decided to consult the internet in search of answers. After a bit of research, I decided that I would try to condition myself into being attracted to women. specifically Kate Upton, because this was all happening right around the time that the sexy Kate Upton Carl's Jr. ads dropped, so she was big news. I'd work myself up, and then right before my big finish, I'd whip out a picture of the fabulous Mrs. Upton, because I figured if Pavlov could condition a dog to drool at the sound of a bell, why couldn't I do the same? Except the bell was Kate Upton, and the drooling was... Never mind. No offense to Pavlov, but I'm not a dog, and women aren't bells. Well, I guess I'm gay now. I had no idea who to blame. Was it my parents' fault? I mean, they watched a lot of Glee while I was growing up. Maybe it was Ryan Murphy's fault. Maybe it was my fault. Whatever. Growing up gay was nothing new, but you know what was new? Was me growing up gay, with the entirety of the internet at my disposal, including all of that porn, most of which had been produced in Chatsworth, California, home. I started noticing places in porn that looked way too familiar. Like, I'd definitely been on a field trip to that ranch. You see that bench that Jack Package is bending Bobby Bottom Bunk over? I think I'd actually sat next to a girl on that bench one time when I was straight, but I don't think I'm ever gonna wanna sit there again. And hey, who gave them permission to film Jugs Galore Part 4 on the Granada Hills High School football field? What a crazy town. My town. Oh my God. Y'all are filthy, and I love it. Chatsworth, the porn capital of the world. My fellow townsfolk are all just as depraved as me, maybe even more so. Hell, I wasn't even the one who was actually doing it. I'm not a horny little freak, I'm just gay. And horny. And a freak. 4 years later, I left my little town of lust and debauchery. According to Google Maps, I am currently 2,984 miles away from home, but I'm reminded of it almost every time that I surf the web. I'm 21 years old now, so I receive fulfillment in other ways, but I'm lucky. None of it has ended up on the internet. I have to go check something. Thank you.
All right. Thank you all very, very much for coming. But before I bid you adieu, could you please give one big round of applause for all of our performers? Everybody, please come out and join me. Phil, please come on up. Everybody. All right, thank you all for that. Nejim, please, will you sing and dance us out? And by sing and dance us out, I mean play that jingle. All right, Thank you all for coming. We'll see you in the fall. Go safe, go well, and we'll see you soon. Thank you. Right, yeah, all right. To produce the Southwick Recital needs Ken Grout and all his disciples, even more than are in the Bible. Dance, sing. Here we go. You know the words. It's the Southwick Recital. It's the Southwick Recital. It's the Southwick Recital, which nobody can deny. Thank you all. You keep playing, house lights up, we're good to go. Thank you, go safe.